Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of What's on Tap. Gary Monterosso here, and it's always a pleasure to introduce a dear, dear friend, and I'm doing that for so long. Our co-host here on What's on Tap now, doing a great job with the South Jersey beer scene. This is Mr. John Couchoud. Hi, John.
Hey, Gary. How you doing, my old friend?
Well, old is definitely the operative, I'll tell you. But we're doing
I love
well.
this.
Well, I actually just shaved on Saturday, by the way, believe it or not. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of responses here. Play Santa Claus on Christmas time and so on. But oh
I
well.
was just thinking you could be an official brewer now. You got this all going
That's
on.
right.
Let's go
One of
work
the
in a brewery.
prerequisites,
You're
isn't
good.
it, in the state of New Jersey, all over the country for that
All
matter.
over. Uh-huh.
So, John, South Jersey beer scene. I think the information that you're putting out now is more apropos than ever. I mean, you're keeping people most recently attuned to which breweries are opening, what times, what places, and in terms of their outdoor seating. So that's a great service that you're doing there.
Thanks. It's hard because, as you know, a lot of the state regulations are kind of in limbo where breweries are really into the point where they're not going to be allowed to publicize themselves on social media. There's some things that are kind of hanging in the air.
Oh, my goodness.
We haven't really even touched on them because of what has happened in the last 3 or 4 months, that it's kind of been put underneath the table, and the governor has stepped up and the ABC has stepped up and allowed some dispensation for the local breweries or for the New Jersey breweries to deliver and have outside seating and stuff like that. So we're not going to go there. But, these guys are my friends. I mean, and we're news and we're journalists, but these people are our friends. If they, we'd love to see them succeed. And if they're not succeeding, it's rough going. I mean, these people have put their blood, toil, sweat, and tears into this, emptying 401ks and, not paying themselves so they can pay their employees. And this has been a devastating blow. But I see some light at the end of the tunnel. Everybody's figuring out how to run their business differently, and whatever we can do to help, we're certainly want to do that.
Now you say you're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, such as what is there that we can be optimistic about?
So I think the thing that's optimistic is that brewers they're very, I'm trying to think of the right word, but they get the tools that they need to get the job done. If they're missing a bag of grain, they're going to call somebody. If they need a hose clamp from somebody, they're going to grab it. So what they figured out how to do is how to get all that liquid that's in those giant fermenters in their breweries. Instead of, sending out for draft, we're not doing that right now. So they've all figured out how to can and how to get the beer out to the public. So they pivoted pretty quick, and they've done that in 3 months. So a lot of the breweries weren't even canning or didn't have crowlers available.
That's true.
Actually went out and got it done so they can move their beer, because, there's a shelf life for the beer, especially stuff that has, very hop involved, that, it's not that it goes bad, it goes out of code. And once it goes out of code, they can't do anything with it. So they have figured a way to pivot and get their beer out to the public. I know a lot of people are doing okay with it. When I say okay, they're able to pay their staff, keep the lights on, and keep moving their product. So it is a little bit of going from we don't know what we're going to do to, hey, we're going to do this to keep people working, to keep our beer going out in the public. And as you know, the amount of beer sales has been tremendous. I mean, I just read today that we had our 4th consecutive $1 billion sales week, and that's craziness. But everybody's contributing to it. And I think that they found a way to move their product instead of just shutting the doors. And I think that's important.
Valid point. And I'm wondering, and I'm just projecting here and maybe fantasizing, but should this come to a positive conclusion at some point, do you see the notion of home deliveries continuing? I realize the state would have to be a part of this. At least on a temporary basis, could it happen until, for example, until the tap rooms are allowed to reach a higher capacity?
I will say this. I'm not a fan of Governor Murphy, and everybody knows that what I've written about. I mean, I think they've, maybe not Governor Murphy himself, but I think the administration has been a little short-sighted on craft beer. As you know, I was able to attend a function that you just couldn't get to, was with the governor's shared craft beer amongst the, it was Celebration of Craft Beer in New Jersey. When we walked in the door, the biggest display there was AB InBev.
AB, right.
And they didn't want to talk about it, but it was right there. And so I think it's a hard industry to get, but you need to get it and you need to understand where it is. So I'm optimistic. The NJBA and the other guild are really working hard to try and keep a lot of this stuff. And I commend the governors and the ABC for realizing that, you know, their licensees or license holders really need to be able to do something different to keep people safe. And I'm hopeful. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm hopeful, but not confident.
Not every brewery is in the same position in terms of the physical space, if you will. Are there some breweries that you're aware of in the southern part of the state that cannot open outdoors?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. So Tonewood, which is one of our favorite breweries, I mean, they put great beer out. Beer. Their area is pretty small, so they've opted, as of this taping, not to open up their outside area, just because logistically it wouldn't work for them. You know, they made a little announcement I saw on social media the other day. I think also that you have a lot of these breweries are just trying to figure out what to do. When it opened, a lot of people were ready to go, but we still have some people building their outdoor areas now because they weren't prepared to do that, for one, and secondly, who'd have thought that they would have been, you know, allowed to do such a thing and expand their premises, because that's the key to it. All the cities have allowed them to expand their premises and their footprint. As you know, the laws are very stringent. You can't be more than so far out of your outside wall unless you have all this stuff. So I think that it was a lot of work, a lot of submissions. And I will say that most of the cities pass this stuff fairly quickly, but there's a few that aren't going to benefit from it. I mean, they're not built to do that.
Correct.
So they're just, you know, even the bigger breweries, let's think about this. So, you know, we love Cape May, we love Flying Fish, Kane, all these guys, they're huge. How big of an outdoor area would they need to move all their beer? I mean, they have a lot of beer in those fermenters.
Absolutely.
You know, not just them, Spellbound and, you know, these bigger breweries. So an outdoor area, does it help? Yes, but it doesn't solve the problem of distro and getting draft out to restaurants and that kind of thing. So I think that it's kind of it's optimism because they're able to expand their premises and serve more people, but there's still a ton of beer. Think of all the draft accounts that aren't getting beer.
Absolutely.
Or very limited right now. So it's tough. It's a tough go.
Are you staying in contact with the brewers more so than you normally would? Are they contacting you? Is it a little bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think one of the things that we did when this happened, we were like, you know, Tom Renzulli, who works with me, and Vix Bilo, who works with us, and you know, Kristen Wilson, all these people, we had just started some work, and we're like, well, what are we going to do now? Like, we had no idea what we were going to do to stay relevant. So I said, guys, let's start doing Zoomcasts like you're doing. Our podcast became video, and Richard and Vic, Richard the Rastafarian, your buddy, they do it. Sometimes Richard's driving in his car. Sometimes he's laying in his bed, but it gets done.
That sounds like Richard.
It does. We did a show 2 nights a week, a live show 2 nights a week, and we're inviting brewers on and people in the industry. We just scaled that back to 1 night a week just to stay relevant. But I think people were really looking for the news. And I mean, you've done the podcast and a couple other things because people are hungry to get the news because there's no communication. So absolutely. I would say that we've been way more in touch. We did a virtual beer fest here in Cape May County with a bunch of the breweries. So I think that more so than ever, we do have an open line of communication. I had 4 or 5 emails today with people telling me what they're going to do with their outdoor area, and, you know, if they're going to open up inside, if this, you know, 25% rule, which, you know, we're in a time capsule here, so we're in a time warp. I mean, they're going to open on July 2nd. They're open 25% capacity indoor seating. So we don't even know if that applies to breweries yet. And if it does, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do.
Yeah, we have to be transparent. We are recording this on June 22nd. And of course, by the time this airs, I don't know when it's going to be. I'm going to guess the end of July. It could even be August by now. But as of today, John, maybe you want to expound on that a little bit, but Governor Murphy has increased, let me get the wording right, indoor events, I guess, restaurants, but we don't know if it applies to brew pubs / breweries at this point, do we?
No, we don't know. And even when the outdoor seating came, the first person I called was our friend Alexis Deegan. I'm like, all right, Lexi Deegs, what does this mean?
Yeah. He
And
would be
she's
our
like, we're
go-to
working on
person.
it.
Right.
Yeah, we're working on
Okay.
it to try and make sure that we understand. And there's a lot of rules that went along with this. This isn't just like you can open up your outdoors and do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can only use the bathrooms if they're in the building. You can't go to the bar. You can't go through the building unless there's no other way to get somewhere, only if it's egress. So there was a lot of things that had to even be ironed out when that came out. So they got clarification from the ABC. So once again, I guess that's, you know, if you're watching us here at the end of July and you're inside drinking in a brewery at 25% capacity, well, then it worked. If not, if not, it was, you know, and we were talking earlier, it's tough to open up anything at 25% capacity.
Absolutely. There is no question about that. And as I mentioned to you before we went hot here, went live, chatted with Dave Goldman. That episode has already aired from Urban Village. And he said to me, and I actually threw the number 50% out to him. And he said, look, he goes, I didn't establish my business to be open at 50%. Because I can't survive at 50%. I'm paying too much per square foot to be open at 50%. So
Yeah, especially with a business like Dave's with menus and buying food and, you
absolutely.
know, what do you do? You limit your menu. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of moving parts to this, but in the beer industry, I think the ability to move draft beer with a higher margins is helping them however they're going to be able to do it. And I think some will open up inside if it's available. I think
Mm-hmm.
most probably won't, and address that maybe in the fall when they can't. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows? I mean, it's a guessing game at best right now.
Have you personally visited any breweries?
Now, I'm in the healthcare field. I'm not going anywhere. I mean,
That's right. People don't know what you do full time. Exactly.
so full time. So just for, you know, I work in an industry where I dispense oxygen and ventilators.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were right in the middle of it, you know, the company that I work for. I mean, I guess, you know, I was talking to my friend John Henderson, who we were talking about. It's in my face all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to put other people at risk. And this is just my personal feeling. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, but for me, you know, my dad still is here. He stays with me at my home, and, you know, and I have a bunch of kids running around, and I have 20 employees. I mean, I think it's, for me, I'm choosing not to until we see how it happens. Cause, you know, I just, you know, I'm getting a little long in the tooth here, Gary. I just want to make sure that, you know, I'm not bringing stuff back.
I'm not even going to address that, John.
Will I visit the breweries? Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
here's my thing. It was the first week. It was shiny and new this week. Nobody knew what was going to happen.
True.
So like I say, we're recording this during the first week of the outdoor brewery. You know, we wanted to see how people were going to act. There were some places that decided to shorten their hours and shorten their time limits and that kind of thing, because, you know, people were penned up and they were ready to get out. And we have, you know, this industry has a great following. So they're tweaking how it works. They have to figure out how it works too. So I think I'd feel more comfortable in a couple of weeks. So
Mm-hmm.
that, but not that anybody's doing anything wrong. I don't want to give that impression. It's just, that's my personal feeling. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen a lot of bad stuff though.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's how I feel.
There was recently a case, I believe it was in northern New Jersey, of a beer garden, I believe, that opened up and had to be shut down again. I saw the pictures. There was no
The
social
picture was,
distancing.
no, it looked like Germany's Oktoberfest. It was crazy.
It did, and that scares me when I see things like that, you know. And I hope it's not being repeated. Have you heard anything so far at this point from the places that have opened? Again, I realize it's brand new, but has any
Yeah,
information gotten back to you?
99% of the people that come to the breweries are respectful.
Good.
Are doing a really, really good job. Just happy to see their friends. Just happy to be able to go outside and safe. And most people are okay. But, you know, you get that, you know, as the governor says, that 1% of the knuckleheads that just are going to go out and drink beer. And Gary, we know craft beer is a little higher ABV than the Miller Lite you're going to grab when you're, you know, a day. And I think if to drink a couple of those beers, I think that there has been a couple instances, but the few outweigh, or the many outweigh the few. So there hasn't been anything I've heard that's been crazy. We did have situations where a lot of the places were using reservation systems, and people were so happy they were making reservations and not showing up. So the places were holding these tables for these reservations, and then nobody was showing up, and they have 20 people out in the parking lot waiting. So a lot of people have just dismissed the reservation system, although it sounds like on paper it's a great idea. But if somebody doesn't show up, that's 90 minutes or however long they set their time for that table not to be able to be used, and you're limited already. That's
a valid point. That's really a concern. And you're right. In many places, there is, once you are able to secure a table, there is a time limit, a maximum amount of time.
Yeah.
In many places. I don't know if they're all doing that, but most of the places that I've seen are saying like 90 minutes to 2 hours. That's about it.
Yeah, I think that they're trying to do that. And the other thing is, and this always amazes me, I know people love their dogs. Do you know how many emails about people are saying, I can't bring my dog?
I
Like,
see them
or I can't bring my
online.
kids.
I know.
We need
I
to
see
call
the
Tara right
messages
now.
online constantly about that. Hey, just be
What do you mean
happy
I
to
can't
grow
bring my
everybody up.
Why can't I? You mean I can't bring my kids to the outdoor beer garden? This is where we need Tara right now.
Don't, if she's watching, don't get her started, please.
I know. Tara,
John,
start an emails, do a big Facebook post, do something.
you and a few other people have stepped up to try to help out people in the industry who have been adversely affected. And I want to let you explain that. I know it's called Brewery Strong. So why don't you give us a little bit of there you go, right there. Give us a little bit of the history.
This
You
way.
can be a TV weatherman if you can do that, John.
I got Nor'easter Nick got nothing on me. There it is over there.
Give us a little bit of the history behind Brewery Strong, because you guys are raising a lot of money and putting it to real good use.
So my friend Rob Callahan, your friend, I've known Rob for 30 plus years.
Wow.
He is the sales manager at Tuckahoe Brewing.
Mm-hmm.
He was watching, he's a news junkie. He was watching news. He was watching David Muir every night saying America Strong. And he's like, why don't we have Brewery Strong? Why don't we do some of that? So he calls me up. He's like, hey, I want to do this. I want to start a nonprofit that we take money and we help all the people in the craft beer, in the brewery, bar, restaurant industries that are out of work any way that we can right now. And in the future, we'll pivot and we'll use it for scholarships, people in need, learning programs, all this, donating to other beer-centric charities. And I said, okay, Rob, let's put it together. So we called a couple of our friends, and the first person that he called was Alexis Deegan, mm-hmm. the executive director of the NJBA. And we talked about bringing other people on board. So to represent the whole state, we added Matt Ziegler from Zigmeister, mm-hmm. Cindy Durama from Twin Elephant. We also had some trustees come aboard, and Mike Kivowitz from New Jersey Craft Beer, Augie Carton from Carton, and Crystal Lockman of Axe and Arrow. Brought them on as trustees, and we started not-for-profit, and we had a charter. It was done like a week. I mean, this all got put together in a week with a lot of hard work with Rob and Alexis, all this. So, we tried to, get some money going. And for those of you who don't know, Other Half in New York started this all together collaboration beer, mm-hmm. Similar to what they did with the Sierra Nevada with the campfire beer and stuff like that. Right. But what was happening was they were doing this all together beer. Nobody knew where to send the money. Like, there was no organization. And we kind of came along at the right time where that all these breweries and restaurants and bars and individuals started sending us this money to redistribute to people that were in need. So as of this date, we raised almost $45,000.
Wow, fantastic.
We've given out nearly 100 grants as of today to people. And we have, you can go to brewerystrong.org and there's an application.
Okay.
Brewerystrong.org. We have an application. If you worked in the restaurant, brewery, bar industries in the state of New Jersey, and you served any kind of craft beverage, and you've been hit hard by, your tips, you have no tips, or your hours have been pushed down, or you didn't get your unemployment, we just want you to fill an application. Very simple. And who you work for, we call them up. Hey, this guy worked for you. This lady worked for you. Yeah, great. Send you a grant. We just want to make sure that people know that it's there. And we have a lot of people like, well, there's other people that need, that need it. Don't assume that. Everybody, people are donating this money from the industry for people within the industry. So if you are still, at this time, still working part-time, I know that the tips are really, really hard right now. Fill out the application, brewerystrong.org. It's a real quick, easy process. It doesn't affect your unemployment. You don't have to claim it on taxes. It's a true grant. So yeah, it's been pretty exciting. And it's been on the news everywhere. Rob's done a bunch of press for it. Our friend Al Gattulo has done a really good job with his show that he does up in New York City for us. Pete Koulos and Tammy Paolino, and you name it, people have come out to help support us, and it's been a really, really good thing. Very humbling we get a check for $7,000, and we're like, holy moly, we were happy if we got to 20,000. Now we're like, we can really do something with this.
Well, yeah, because the last I looked, which was maybe a week or two ago, I think you were at 40,000. Now you're up to
Or
45. So
40,
that's
yeah, it's almost
fantastic.
45 with promises of more.
Goodness.
And it's been truly amazing. And Rob gets very emotional about it. And if you go back to our archive and watch some of the shows, I mean, it's really affected him. It really makes him feel, not feel good about himself, but it really is a good feeling when you drop off a check to somebody and they say, thanks a lot. I really, we truly appreciate that. And, thanks for all that you guys do. But it's not, we're just the person that's delivering it. The people that are donating all this money and bought all the merchandise, and we sold so much merchandise that the people from the place that we got the merchandise from sent me an email. They're like, hey, we're going to be your personal liaison to do all this stuff now to help us out. So it's kind of funny. But all the breweries, the bars, the restaurants, I mean, people are just walking in and just handing us money. Hey, we want to help. And 100% of the funds are going right back to everybody. So
that's fantastic.
Cool.
And we have to say it's brewerystrong.org.
Yes. And you can go to sjbeerscene.com,
Okay.
go to our Facebook page. We're all over social media at Brewery Strong. Follow us. And if you have a couple extra bucks, buy a t-shirt, hit the donate button on the page or whatever you need to do. And the money is going right back out to your friends and neighbors.
Talk a little bit, if you can, if we can move on to talk about your show that you're doing, as you mentioned, Tuesday nights. Now that's Tuesday night. What time?
We do Tuesday nights at 7:30,
Mm-hmm.
South Jersey Beer Scene Live. Me and Tom Renzulli.
Mm-hmm.
We just basically, hey, let's call our friends and let's get them on. Let's talk about what they're doing. So we've had a lot of the brewery owners on, and we've had people from. We had Guy Zompa and Mark Anteron from Little Water, who had this incredible story of what they've done with sanitizer, pivoting their business.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the Brewery Strong people on. We've had people that have manufactured glassware, kind of across the gamut, just to give people a little bit of insight. And it's very collaborative. We run it on Facebook Live and on YouTube. We take questions back and forth. And it's just been an interesting thing to be able to see, hey, I have this business that I have a business plan for, that's been the business plan for breweries forever. Then this happens, what do you do? And so, we've had Cape May Brewery on, and we've had, we have the smaller breweries on as well. Gusto, Zach, there's this little tiny brewery that,
That's right.
have figured it out and are doing well. And it's just to see the dichotomy of the two things of how they're doing it, but they're all really doing the same thing, just on a different scale. So it's been a lot of fun.
Talk with me about the breweries that were in transition, breweries that were expected to open or are expected to open over the next few months or so. Where are they right now in all this? I mean, once the process has started, it's difficult to stop it.
Yeah, as we speak today, we just did Battle River, the new brewery in downtown Tom's River. They're brewing beer today. Ian Bartlett and Mark, they've been working on this brewery for 2 years, and it got into a kind of a slowdown. I think the ABC, they didn't shut down, but they worked for the state. They weren't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So now things have been moving along. The people at Farm Truck, the people at Dr. Brew Little's, I saw that Heights Brewery just opened in Heightstown this weekend. They had some beers, and Battle River. These guys are all, close. And then you have people like Royal Bine and Absecon that are kind of going, and the Seed, who are kind of close. So we have all these breweries that are kind of close.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of them getting that final licensing. So it's kind of, they got a couple balls in the air there. We just we're hopeful that Battle River will be open in the next week or two. Mm-hmm. And we're at the end of June. We're hoping that they're open for July 4th weekend. I'm not sure, but we're hopeful. The other guys, I think they're all ready to go. They're chomping at the bit. It's just a matter of getting everything in order with the ABC. So
there was one name
yes.
Mm-hmm. There was one name that you mentioned that I'm really looking forward to, and that is the Seed, because I like those people a lot.
So we had Amanda and Sean on a Zoomcast with Vic's Basement Zoomcast with Vic Spilo and Richard, and they're going to do some really interesting stuff. And
I would be surprised if they didn't, John, knowing them.
Excuse me.
Yes.
They're so good at what they do, and they're so humble, and they're just such good people that they're somebody that you just want to root for to succeed. And they're going to do things. They're doing spontaneously fermented beers. which is something that not many people do, and they do them well, and they have a love for it, and they go out and find these ingredients in the woods, and different yeasts, and they've been very collaborative for the last couple of years doing stuff with other breweries. But I'm so excited, and they're going to be open right there where Little Water Distillery
Right, yeah,
is.
exactly.
And I think it's going to be great. We were hoping this summer, but I don't really talk business with them, because I'm sure every time they get a phone call, they're like, "Hey, when you guys opening?" I'm hopeful for the summer. I know they were going to be part of AC Beer Fest, which would have been awesome. I think, but everything came to a halt. But that place is going to be really, really cool, and great people. You couldn't ask for better people.
That's the key right there. Boy, that area of Atlantic City between Tennessee Avenue Beer Hall, Little Water, and now the Seed, I mean, that's going to become a real mecca for beverage enthusiasts.
And Michael Brennan, who's going to be opening up the Cardinal Hotel over there in Lake. So he put it off till next year.
Right?
Michael's done several things for South Jersey beer scene. We had him make some beer pretzels for a virtual beer fest, but he's going to be beholden to these. Not beholden, but he's going to be using these craft cocktails, and with an emphasis on service and teaching and pairing with food and stuff like that. And it's just going to add to, we already have Tennessee Avenue Beer Hall over there, and Amanda and Sean, and you got the distillery, and you got the revamped Ton Tavern over that way. I mean, there's a lot of things that are hopeful for Atlantic City, which is becoming a pretty good beer town.
And it is, it absolutely is. And of course, as we speak, we do have the announcement that the casinos are expected to open in time for the 4th of July week. Of course, as you're watching this, it's hopefully already happened. And we have to be optimistic that people will be cognizant of social distancing and wear their masks as they're supposed to. And let's not go into a downslide. That's the last thing we need, because we're seeing that happening in so many states right now. I mean, Florida, Texas, parts of California. I don't want it to happen here again.
No, I don't either. And I think, so having worked in North Jersey and South Jersey during this, we really didn't see a whole bunch here in South Jersey like we saw in North Jersey. It was absolute bedlam. So even though it's bad, we got a pretty mild down here, and I don't think a lot of people realize how awful this whole situation was north of 195, or north of Ocean County. I mean, it was bedlam. I mean, it was amazing. But doctors, and we've learned how to deal with it a little bit better. I think people have gotten over. It's unusual to see somebody not wearing a mask when I'm out. But I'm not going to the boardwalk, and I'm not going to all those places. But I mean, I'm hopeful. I just don't, part of me is like, how can you monitor 25% of people in the casino? True. Like, how can you do that? Are you by every elevator, I just don't know how. I know they have a plan, and I hope it works out. But like we say on our show, just don't be we're not going to say what we say on our show, but just be cognizant of your neighbors and your friends.
That's right.
It's no different. You don't know what that person's dealing with at home. Or you don't know, what their feelings are. And I think it's unlike any other time I've ever seen. I was too young to remember the Vietnam, things that were going on there. I imagine it was certainly kind of sort of like this.
In some ways. I remember, unfortunately, all too well.
And it's
but there are parallels to it. There's no question.
So I'm hopeful. I'm just so hopeful. I mean, just because we know so many people, Gary, that have just eaten it right now. And I mean,
no question.
I suspect a lot of restaurants aren't going to reopen. I suspect that a lot of people are going to, I'm expecting breweries to close. I know none have yet, but I mean, it's a numbers game. I mean, I think people, they're not just making beer. They're paying for the giant towers of stainless steel.
That's right.
That they have in their brewery. And, when those people want their money, it's not like they're saying, oh, just get it to us when you can. I think that people forget that they have all that property, plant, and equipment that they have to pay for. It's not just making beer. So,
and as you said, it's not just we're closed today and completely open tomorrow. It's going to be a very, very slow transition. John, unfortunately, we could do an hour of the show. There's no question about that. But I am out of time. Awesome. And I want to thank you, John Couchoud from South Jersey Beer Scene, for being back on What's on Tap. And
it's always great to be
back at home. Get together in person,
Yeah, I'm thinking probably next May.
Next, may be right.
Next April for AC Beer Fest, which will
That
be the
may be
first
right.
big event next year. I'm hoping that we're all safe and whatever. So, like to say to everybody, thanks for your support for AC Beers, or for AC Beer, for SJ Beer Scene and Brewery Strong. We really truly appreciate it. It's always, as always, great hanging out with my friend Gary.
Beautiful. Thanks, John. Thanks for joining us. And we'll
You
see you
got it.
next
Cheers.
time on What's on Tap.